Okay, cool. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let me make sure this thing, okay, I'll turn my video too, I guess, for all the online people. Okay, so as usual, oh wait, this is kind of covering it. That's annoying. Um, so here's the ACM membership sign in. Also these slides are gonna get posted in our Discord, which I'm hoping everyone is already in. So you can also just reference it there. And as a reminder, the ACM membership sign-in is just, it's members.uclaacm.com. And if you missed that or something, you can just talk to me or any of our officers afterwards, and we'll help you out with it again because we know you're here. Okay, today, here's the overall curriculum again of every single week, and today we're covering Intro to React. So we're going to be talking about what that is, why you should care about it, and how it kind of segues into everything else. And lastly, a note on notes. I know some people are very studious and I respect it, but we recommend you don't need to take notes because we're gonna post all this. And we also recommend not necessarily coding along. We're gonna have specific 5-minute checkpoints for all of you, where we'll go out and help you too. It's just easy to get lost if you're trying to do the stuff while I'm teaching it for the first time. So we also have both of these links to the slides and the demo available for you. They should be in the Discord. Jenna, are they in the Discord already? Okay, so yeah, hopefully all of you are okay with getting those. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to recap what we learned last week. Then we're going to talk about what React is, right? We've been saying it a lot, but not really given much context for what it really is. We're going to set up our environment, talk about file structure a little bit, and then what components are and what props are. Okay, so firstly, also I have all of these little prizes and stuff that I'm just gonna throw at people throughout the thing. So for these are squishies. So can someone tell me just a gist of what we learned last week? And it can be anything. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You want there's a dinosaur. This is a triceratops. This is a weird blob. Oh, it's a dog. Do you want out of those three? Sure. You want one more? I'll give you one more. Here's a pink one. I don't know what it is. All right. Does someone else want to elaborate more on it? We have tech decks and stickers too. I don't know. It might be dangerous for me to throw a tech deck, but anyone else? You can really say anything, and it's okay if you're wrong too. All right. So there'll be more chances. So what's your name? Charlene. Okay, so as Charlene said, we have HTML, right? That's the visual content of our website. That's the text, image, buttons, and it's only the content. It's not style or logic, right? So on this particular Google slide, it would be the text saying recap and the image HTML. We also learned about CSS, which is what actually gets used to style the website, right? Every time I click one of these buttons and there's that fade in effect, CSS is what's doing that. And that includes stuff like colors, drop shadow. The font of this is Open Sans, right? There's some stuff that's bold. That's all CSS. And lastly, we learned about JavaScript, which is what makes the website logic work. So when I press my arrow key and the next thing fades in, how does Google Slides know to do anything, right? There's JavaScript under the hood that's making that work. Okay, so now we're talking about React, right? And hearing this, I don't know if how many people have already heard of it. Just raise your hand if you've already heard of it. Okay, cool. Oh wow, a lot of you actually. But for those of you that might not have, you might have a lot of questions, right? We just learned all this stuff that you said makes up all the web content on the internet. So why are we learning something completely new? So why do we need React in the first place? And you probably have a lot of other questions burning through your brain, but we're going to answer all of these. So first, let's talk about what React even is. React is, I should have asked someone for a squish, but React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. Can someone tell me very quickly, explain I'm 5, what a user interface is?
User interface program.
Yeah. So, what was your name? Fahim? Okay, so as you said, that's exactly right. User interface is everything the user is really touching, right? And to break down specifically all these bolded terms, a library just means a set. Oh, I forgot to throw you your stuff. My bad. What do you want? Well, I want to throw it at you. All right, here you go. You can come get other one. Nice catch. So a library is just another term for a set of tools. And user interface is something that a lot of people throw around a lot, but it really just means what you are interacting with on your web page. React is also considered an industry standard. So for those of you that might have already done internships or are planning to get one or just working a job, it's not uncommon to see React used at a lot of big names. And yeah, so React uses its own kind of language and it's called JSX, in addition to pure JavaScript. And JSX just stands for JavaScript XML. So what is this, right? Here's a very quick example of JSX in a React component that I made completely myself, not from any online place. But as you can see, it shares a lot of elements of what we might associate with JavaScript, right? We're defining functions, we're returning stuff, we have import statements, but we also have stuff that looks like HTML in here. We have divs and p tags and all that. So, what gives with all of it? So JavaScript is basically like, or JSX is basically like JavaScript and HTML had a baby. Specifically, right, JavaScript is a programming language and XML is a markup language. And I know we didn't really talk about what XML is. You don't need to know what it is at all. You can just think of it like HTML. So JavaScript XML or JSX is basically like their baby. And don't worry, it's not like a new language you'll need to learn today or anything. It's just kind of a justification for why you might see some stuff later that will look like HTML directly in JavaScript. And there you go, right? JSX basically lets us write UI in JavaScript. That's the reason React chooses to use that instead of raw HTML, CSS in JavaScript. Okay, a little bit more on this. JSX lets us store the markup code into variables and then directly write it in JavaScript. Markup just means a thing we're putting on the screen, and HTML is an example of that. Okay, so why should we use React? Does anyone want to shout out an example for some squish or sticker or something before I show the answers? It's okay if you're wrong too. Okay. Okay, yeah, that is actually a valid reason. You want one or two? Oh, sure. You want me to throw it at you? I hope if it broke, you can get another one later. Yeah. Yes, yeah, exactly. Prize. I'll give you a switch. You can get a new one if you want. Okay. Anyone else before I go? All right. So why React, right? We have reusable components. That's a big part of it, and we'll learn about it literally right after this slide, I believe, or in a couple. It's more intuitive to implement. It uses something called declarative syntax, which really just means it's easier to read than if you wrote everything raw. And it's really easy to pass data in between components, right? And we're also going to learn about that today. For everyone new that's come in, the slides are all on the Discord and stuff, so you can just reference it there. All right, there's even more for why React that I couldn't fit all into one slide, but there's a lot of community support. It was made and is now backed by Meta. There's a lot of libraries to use, which basically means other people spend a lot of time working on like one really cool looking button, and instead of doing it yourself, you can just like use what they did. It's like legal plagiarism. Right? And then there's also something called like a virtual DOM that minimizes DOM manipulation for efficiency, which is a lot of big words. And it basically means you see your changes real fast. When you make a change and you save it, it insta updates, as opposed to like some other frameworks like Angular, which are a bit slower. All right, so any questions before I move on? Because that was a lot, but if anyone's confused about React, why we're gonna learn it in a sec. Yep. DOM is basically, I believe it's document object model. I feel like there's a lot more to explain about it.
It's like
Mhm.
a tree that represents all the items in the HTML document.
Mhm. Yeah, we can get this. Oh shit. Oh, this is recorded. Oh no. All right. Any other questions I can answer though, or Anar can answer?
The React, they use some,
Well, it uses JSX. Do you mean like, does it use like Python or C++ or something, or?
like, leaks that.
It does use like CSS. It does use JavaScript. And although we're saying it's JSX, it really is just using HTML inside of it. Like it's literally almost exactly the same. That's why we learned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript last week. And as I do my demos, that'll become more clear too. Here you go. Yeah.
What's the difference between React, like the .jsx versus Node.js?
So Node.js is like a separate thing. Node is like a server, I believe, or something along those lines. Okay, yeah, I didn't expect this question. But I'll just someone can answer it later for you. I'm not gonna go into too much detail right now. Here you go. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and set up our environment. So things we're gonna need, your computers, laptops, you're gonna need VS Code, which hopefully you got last session, at least. And we're gonna need node.js, which is what you're just asking about. And I have hyperlinked all this stuff here, but when you visit that website, you're gonna want to download the LTS version. You can, I know we said like not to code along, but you can download it right now because it might take some time, especially if you like don't have VS Code for some reason. Yeah, so we're going to now create our first React app. So the first thing is we're going to open VS Code. So I'm on a Mac, so I'm just going to do this from a Mac perspective, but Windows people, I believe in you. And I'm going to use Spotlight Search to search up VS Code, really. I don't know why it's there, but I have it bookmarked. So I'm just going to open a new window here. Actually, maybe I'll go through these slides very quick and do it all at once. So we're going to open VS Code. Then we're going to open something called the terminal, right? There's a couple of different ways to do this. You can do it either in your toolbar by clicking terminal and then new terminal. Or you can, on a Mac again, so this is for Mac people, press control and backtick. And that's not command backtick, it's control backtick. So as a brief aside, let's actually talk about the terminal really quickly. But the terminal is basically something that lets you talk to your computer in a special language. You're basically telling the computer directly stuff to do. And as an example, if you type ls in your terminal, right, that we have just pulled up. So I'm going to type ls, and you can see like all of my different, at the root level, all of the folders I have. And really, though, it just prints all the files in the current directory. So to navigate with the terminal, you're going to use CD followed by the file name. Do not put the angle brackets. That was just a way to show it. But CD file name followed by whatever file navigates you into the file or folder, I should have said. And CD dot navigates you into the parent directory. In general, a single dot means the current directory and 2 dots means the parent one. So I'm just going to show that really quickly with this terminal. I have all of my folders here, right, at my root level. I'm going to do CD desktop. And if I do ls now, then you can see I got like a lot of different stuff on here on my desktop. And right, like I have this folder called hack apparently, and there's like a folder called hack right there. So it's just listing everything that I have. And I can do CD dot to go back into the root level and see all of my stuff as it normally was. Also, I'm clearing the terminal just because I like it to be clean, but I'm doing that with Command K. Okay, so back to creating our React app, because that's the more interesting part, right? In the terminal, go to the file or folder that you want your app to be located. I guess it's really just folder. And you're going to run this command right here. And when you run this command, it's going to create its own folder. So what that's going to look like is you're going to run it like this. And it might ask you to install some packages if it's your first time. Just press Y and enter. Then it'll ask you for a project name where you can just start typing. I was trying to like backspace at first. It doesn't, like, you don't need to do that. You can just start typing, it'll override it. You're going to select React using your arrow keys and pressing enter. And then you're going to select JavaScript, same way as last slide. And then after all that, it will basically make it for you. So I'm going to demo that right now. So I'm actually going to go back to this for reference again. npm create v at latest. So I'm going to type it and then press enter. And for project name, I'm just going to say like, I don't know, Hack School in-person demo or something. I'm going to select React with the arrow keys, and I'm going to select JavaScript. And now if we go to my desktop, actually, you can see we have this new folder, Hack School in-person demo, right? So it just made that for us. Okay. Again, all these slides should be on the Discord, so I hope you guys can just reference that. What do you mean following the same session? Oh, it should be in the Hack School slides and info. Is it? Okay. All right, when we get to a demo, I can just go over and look at it, or maybe someone around you can help. But I'm gonna open this project in, oh, sorry. So using V instead of create React app is just like what people are slowly moving towards, because I think there's a lot less bloat and whatnot. There's like a whole bunch of really technical, detailed explanations if you're curious about that you can just Google. But I think generally people are more shifting towards this instead of create React app. Although fundamentally they really do the same thing. Like if you wanted to do create React app and follow this tutorial, you could do that too. You know, it's like potato. Okay, so I'm going to open this project in VS Code just by doing Command O. I forgot to fix that typo. This should be Command O. I don't know why it says, I'm just going to fix it. And then I'm going to navigate to where it is, right? Desktop. I'm going to select the folder and then open it. And the reason I do this is because now I can just view it nicely in VS Code. Okay, so now this is hopefully what your screen looks like, or similar. It doesn't need to be exact, obviously. Also in your terminal, you might want to run npm install if it's, that will just get you a bunch of dependencies and whatnot that your app may require. And it does take a while for your first time, possibly. So you might want to just run that in the background while I kind of blab. And if you run it and you panic and want to cancel it, you can just press Control-C. Okay, and you'll know it's done when you can type again. So I'm going to do that right now. Open the terminal, just do that. And after that finishes, we can run npm run dev and then follow the local link to get our final boilerplate app created. Okay, I don't know why it's taking so long, so this should hopefully just be fine for me to do this. I guess not. Okay, anyways, but I think it's probably because there's so many people here. I remember last week we had the same issue. Anyways, now's the time for you to try it yourself. When we come back to this, then it should probably be fine. But I'll set 5 minutes, so 6:25. We'll come back to this, but now's the time. If you have any questions, then we'll be walking around to help you all and stuff. All right, cool.
It's just a flight move. My fault. Oh, okay. So, so you did get to that. Well, the stuff at the end is just like it's just saying like, oh, you can update some stuff that go. Yeah. So usually, all of those.
Sure.
What do you want to say? Like, so you made it. So this is your, I think just you're the one that got so once we so maybe not copy of these that'll like or no, it's just like the you just type keto and then it'll tell you which folder. Yeah, yeah, literally just the whole folder. So that's not okay with you. Yeah, yeah, just be in there. Yeah, just drag it on your end. Oh, why? Yeah, I never really actually installed. I so then I'm both so you see here it has like it's been average when you like click CD, you're not really all the stuff
Okay, we're gonna get started again. If you guys are currently getting help, then you can finish that up. But I'm just gonna start demoing. So okay. Oh, so we're gonna do a brief tour now of our project. Also, my thing did finish. So let me try doing this. So now I can do npm run dev, right? And I can get what everyone else is looking at, I believe. I don't know, Einar, can you check that out? Okay, cool. Yay, so here's the Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. No, no, please leave light. Can, oh, wait, can you not dim it? Like, you can just dim it. Oh, I thought you were dimming it earlier.
No. So,
Okay,
yeah, sorry.
yeah, sorry about that. Okay, cool. But we're gonna do a brief tour of our project because we just created it. This is what we should be kind of staring at right now, right? And let's kind of walk through this one by one. So on the left here is all of our folders and files that got auto-generated for us. And if we go into it, the source folder is what we'll primarily be kind of touching throughout this. So in the source file, if you expand that and click into it, there's a main.jsx, which is kind of like the entry point into our app. Don't really worry about it again. It's not what we're going to be primarily modifying. And then there's app.js, which currently contains all the boilerplate on our website, right? When we go to this right here. So over there, you can make edits and then, just save the file to see your changes immediately, right? So if I'm going to basically do that. If I go to source and I go to like app.jsx, also Anar Anakin, once you guys done, can you like go back to your seat? I know people still have help, but it's kind of a rip. Like we'll just help them out in the next one. When you guys are done helping, could you go back to your seat? Yeah. So if I just deleted everything right now here and I put like an H1 tag, and said like hello, and I save it with Command S. Then if I go back to my app here, then it says hello. So some example boilerplate for you guys is just like this. We don't need a lot of this stuff like the use state. That's going to be covered in a later week's workshop. And we don't need like these imports of the logos and whatnot. We just really need import React. Okay. So before we can kind of elaborate a bit further on everything, we're going to very quickly review JavaScript functions. So an example function in JavaScript might look like this, right? My function. And we're going to break this down word by word and like symbol by symbol. So firstly, there's the word function, and that's just telling our code like, yo, we're making a function right now. Then there's my function, and that can be whatever you want. It can just be, it's really just an arbitrary name. Then we have these two parentheses. That's where something called parameters get passed in. If you're already familiar with functions, if you've never heard of that in your life, don't worry about it. And then there's these two curly braces that just kind of tell JavaScript or tell our program like what's going to be contained inside of our function. Okay, so that was a very brief recap of an example function. And within this function, we can put whatever we want really that's valid in JavaScript. So here's like a console log saying hey. And if we were to invoke this function by just calling it somewhere outside, then in our terminal we will print hey, right? So that's kind of how that works. To invoke a function, you just need to call it outside somewhere. And you can also return values from a function. So instead of maybe like printing the string hey, we can just return it, and then we can basically set some variable equivalent to that and then console log it outside, and you can see the same output still prints. Okay, so with that done, now we can talk a bit about what components are in React. And this is like the bread and butter of making a React site. So as an observation, right now, whenever we make something, we have to write all of it manually. If we look at Reddit, there's a lot of repeated code, and this isn't just Reddit, obviously. This is like Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or any web app, really. But for every single post, there's certain elements. There's like the voting arrows. There's going to be a title, an author, a timestamp, maybe. There's going to be some text in the middle, and then the action bar at the bottom. And if we were to implement that right now, it would look something like this. This isn't even like half of what it would really look like, but right, we're basically copy pasting every single one of these posts over and over and over, which is just a huge pain. So the solution is components let you write something once and then use it over and over and over again. Usually they're defined in their own separate files and called at some other points in your code, but you can also define them in the same file if you would like. So a general structure of a component might look something like this. And as you might notice compared to what we just talked about, it looks very similar to what our JavaScript function was. Right, there's only a couple of small differences since we're working with React. Like I added this export default thing at the front, and there's also this like markdown looking code on the inside. But besides that, it's really just it's very similar. And then to actually call that component, so here's like a different file, app.jsx. There's a couple specific things. Firstly, we need to import it. So when you import your component, squirrel again up here. I don't know if you can see my cursor on this. Oh, you can. Squirrel is just like an arbitrary variable name, right? But usually you want to name it what the component is, like just for clarity. And then you're going to say from followed by the file path relative to the current file. So that might be, I hope that's not too confusing, but I'll demo it in a second. And after importing it, then you can go ahead and reference it in your code somewhere. Okay, so now we're going to do a demo and we're going to make our own custom component. And the reason you might want to use a component is because you can put your own elements in it as well. Is there any questions very quickly before I get into this? I also want to make sure we finish at least close to on time. All right, cool. So now I'm going to demo how to do this. So the first thing is here's our app, right? And right now there's not a lot going on. So in the source folder, I'm going to click this up here, and this is going to, you can just hover it on your own computer, but it will say new file. And when I click it, it's going to ask me to like write the name of whatever I want. So I'm going to type squirrel.jsx. Make sure, yeah, also notice like, the capitalization of it and whatnot. So now that I have squirrel.jsx, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to import React. And then I'm going to do this export default function squirrel, followed by the parentheses and then the curly braces. I have Copilot on, which is why it's giving me these suggestions. So if I know I'm going kind of fast over the syntax, but if you get lost, then you can just look at the slides. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. Hopefully that's clear to see. So now that I have this, oh, whoops. So as Copilot is suggesting, we can return something like this, but I'll just type it. We can return something, and something very, very important is you can only return one thing, otherwise React will scream at you. So, right, if I do a div and I put h1 Alvin, this is good. No, there's not gonna be any errors. But if I put another div right outside it, then there's gonna be a lot of errors. So the solution is if you want to have two divs like this, you can just wrap it all in one big div. Okay. Right, like this would be fine. So now that I have this declared, the next step is I want to actually, before I go ham in designing this component, I'm just going to want to make sure it works properly. So in app.jsx, I'm going to do this import squirrel from, and then I'm going to write the file path. And it's kind of neat. VS Code does this where you can do // and it'll show you like what's in your current directory. So there's already this squirrel right here, and I can just type, I can press it. I don't think file extensions matter, but right. So now I've imported it and I can go ahead and invoke it in my code. And if I save it, then, oh, whoops, wrong screen. But then you can see Alvin shows up, and that's purely from my component. Yes, question. We tried earlier, but if you can only turn them off or on. Oh, okay. Let's see, how do you color theme. How about, oh my God, that did nothing. And, or what was it? Color palette. Let's just do this. How's that? Is that a little better? All right. Well, okay, let's just do no lights for the demo very briefly. Oh my goodness. All right. Oh man, I don't remember what I had before. I think I had Noctis Lux. Okay. So hopefully, all right, we need to turn that on after this because otherwise that's like a health hazard maybe. But right, so this is what our app currently looks like, and now we want to make it look like this. And now this is when we're going to use the HTML and CSS that we learned last week into making this component. So for now, I'm not going to worry about the image, but I am going to put the p tag, right? So I'll just say Alvin is a lit squirrel or something. And if I save it, then you can see our component again gets updated here. And then, okay, I'll just do the images now. So in my source folder, I'm going to make a new folder just to make stuff clearer. And I'm going to title it images or just image. And I've already prepared some zoom. So over here, I have four images, and I'm just going to drag it in there. And then to invoke an image or to make an image show up it's really similar to what we learned last week. I'm going to say import Alvin from, and then followed by the file path, right? /image/ and then you have to make sure it matches exactly to the file name. And then I can just do like image source is equivalent to Alvin. So if I save that, then now our Alvin shows up. Oh, okay. And then lastly, obviously we have some styles here. I'm not going to go really in depth on what styles I'm doing, but I will give a brief overview because it's all stuff we learned last week. I'm going to create a new file in source, and I'll just call it squirrel.css. And then we need to link that to our current JSX. So I'm going to import it. I think, yes, like so. And then now I can assign like a class name to this topmost div. I'll just call it like squirrel top. And then I can specify it with my CSS selectors up here. So I can say background color is aqua. I hope no one's raising their hand because I can't see. Oh, right. So now you can see all that's there. And I'm just going to do some very quick styles. Let's make the padding like 40 and give it just like a quick border radius of 20 pixels. Right. So now we have our component more or less. I also want to add a box shadow. Box shadow. You know what? It's fine if I don't do this. I'll just, if you want to do a specific style to your thing, you can just Google it. No one really expects you to memorize everything. Okay, cool. So that's more or less what we have, right? I feel like I did decent. Could you hit the lights, please? Thank you. We can turn it off for the next one. So now you guys got to try it yourself. Again, 5 minutes. I'm going to try my best to finish this workshop before 7, but no promises. I hope, and it might go like 5 minutes over. So, all right. So 6:45. I do want to add a box shadow to this. Oh, and can someone back there had an issue with Node? Could you help them out?
Yeah, there's multiple people.
Oh, okay. Okay, wait.
Yeah, it's meant to be something. Like someone had it installed, but I had a different file. Dude, as long as it's added to the pad, it's fine. I'm gonna check. You want to click on the check here?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, like all his like
No, this looks great.
we have like
Oh.
like that.
Wait, he's not there.
It's in the
So the reason it's not showing up is because app.jsx is the entry point of our app, right? So if you delete everything in app.jsx right now, it's all boilerplate. So it's okay if you delete it. Or delete the stuff in between the brackets. Yeah, wait.
You can
Just everything inside the return statement.
is this like, this thing that,
Um,
okay, just say,
before
Okay, and then
Think I just-
maybe add like a div,
it asked me if I wanted to install.
and then
Droplet.
inside the div, put like
And then
here's the
I don't know
these
if it
actions.
installs.
So you do,
sorry, Mike.
Oh, and then I.
and just type something random. And then if you save, it should show up.
You might just have to restart VS Code.
Oh, okay, so that.
Okay, well, yeah, so to get your,
It was in the past.
yeah, so to get your component, you have to do that import at the top.
Alright, there you go. Yeah, you just.
Right, and you can
open
reference links for that, I think I have it somewhere. And then, yeah, you'll just,
I'm not sure why.
let me know if you have issues with it.
Thank you.
Alright,
Yeah. So you're, what are you trying to do, get the timing?
Wait,
Oh, so you don't need the terminal?
I don't think it's gonna work. Just try to do
I guess, yeah, so you can get this virtual back. Or you can do terminal right here and then just start.
well, let's go to your computer.
We're chilling.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just had to restart VS Code. That was it.
yeah.
Okay,
sometimes
so
like,
it
and then
should-
will like just close.
I don't know if you
It's
want
not
to
like
create a
this
face folder.
You can just think of it like opening and closing tab.
Oh, yeah, they don't. Yeah,
This, so, okay, LS works.
yeah, you can do it in PowerShell.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes, you can do stuff with multiple terminals, actually.
Yeah.
I'll show you right now.
I just wanted
Right,
to-
so on this one, maybe you could,
Delete it.
run your app, but then you could press this plus right here. And then now you have two, right? And these are their own stuff.
Just wanna look up.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay, chilling. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I.
Did you install Node already? Oh, you don't need to install. Feel free to just.
Mind if I just try to make a
Yeah.
new device?
Yeah, if you ever feel like there's too much, right, like, I'm gonna do something. Right, say like you did this and you wanna clear it, do command. But, try npm kill altogether for your device.
You just, is it fine if I do it?
Yeah, so this actually is really great. Memory.
Okay, and then that'll take a while, it's very simple, but once it's done, we should be able to do npm. Yeah.
You actually know this time.
You'll know we're done. Right, so right now, well, to me, it's like.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're done. See how there's a little block? That indicates you can. Yes. And then now, if you follow that link, it should be into the photo. Okay, cool. So many more questions, but it's 6:45. I promise I will get to everyone with questions after, because then we have unlimited time. Okay, yes, but sorry, I do need to get started again though. Okay, so one more observation now, right? So hopefully most of you have been able to at least get experimenting with your own components and stuff. But most of the time you probably won't want just like the same component over and over and over. Right, here's like an example. Right now this is what our app looks like. But if I went to app.jsx, let me close this. If I went here and I just like copied it a bunch and pasted it a bunch and I saved it, then our app just has a bunch of Alvins. And I'm realizing Alvin, oh man, I meant to change this. Alvin's not a squirrel. He's a chipmunk. But anyways, that's irrelevant, right? But we just have a bunch of Alvins and we want to put some other cool rodents in our app.
So one way to do that is through something called props. So props are how we pass data from one component to the other. If you're familiar with programming, they're basically like parameters in a function. Although if you're not, then just think of it as a cool way we can pass stuff into our component. So before props, this is what our function might look like, right, with the Alvin and stuff. Wow, I really wrote Alvin the squirrel when I was making this. Does anyone want to tell me, it can just be something small, but how this might change after we add props? Or you can take a guess. Guesses are welcome. More squishies in tech decks. Any guesses? Can anyone even see it? Okay. Damn, no guesses. Oh, sure. Yes, exactly. I'll give you 3 because no one else is raising their hand. I'll give you them different colors too. All right, ready? Oh, sorry. All right, cool. So, as you said, yes, exactly. In fact, we do made some change to the parameters. I don't know how clear this is to see. I hope it's okay. And if not, I hope you guys are able to follow in your slides. But we're gonna add some parameters up here, right? All of these, name, image source, and description, and some other changes. We're no longer referring, like, we're not writing Alvin anymore. Now we're just referring to what we passed up there. Now we're using name, image source, and description. So that's kind of how our component's going to change. Now, as for the component call in app.jsx, this is how that's going to need to change as well. So the first step is, you might notice now we're not just saying squirrel. Now we have all this stuff on the insides as well. And that's so we can actually specify the specific thing, the specific properties of that component. But as a result, we're able to kind of get a lot of variety in each component instead of having the same thing over and over and over. So we're actually okay on time. So does anyone have any questions before I get into the demo? And if you ask questions, I'll still throw stuff at you. Okay. I'm assuming everyone is following great then. So what we're going to do in this demo is we're going to change our scroll component very similarly. I think actually, in fact, everything on that code in those last 2 slides is probably what I'm going to do right now. But we're going to change the scroll component. Then we're going to change the call to it in app.jsx. And then we're going to make a bunch of different squirrels. So let's go ahead and get into that. What's next? Okay. Oh, this is what it's going to look like afterwards. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me get rid of this. So let me go back to one squirrel. And you might notice, like, I'm kind of doing this compartmentally. It's because I want to make sure that I do it like good at least once before I go crazy on everything. Because if you try implementing a bunch of stuff at once and it turns out you have a mistake, then it might be tougher. So, oh yeah, thank you for that. So as an example, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm only going to worry about the name. I'm not going to worry about the image. I'm not going to worry about the description. So I'm going to put a name here. And instead of saying Alvin, I'm going to put some brackets around that and then reference name. So, right, if I hover over this, in fact, like if I click name, then you can see it highlights. So you can also command click it and then it'll bring your cursor to it. So that's pretty neat. So now that we have the name in my scroll right here, in my scroll component, I'm going to, as ChatGPT or Copilot suggesting, I'm going to put name is equivalent to Alvin. And if I save this, well, nothing really changed. I'm actually going to change the text color because it's kind of tough to see that. Let me say color is black. There we go. So nothing changed, but that's because I just passed in Alvin, right? Let's pass in a bunch more now. Let's say Theodore, or I don't know what things I have here. Chip and Dale. Do people know who Chip and Dale is? Cool. They were like my favorite Disney character growing up. Anyways, so if I save this, right, now you can see, oh, we have a bunch of these guys and all of them have different names. In fact, let me put a margin here. It's not good practice, but it'll make it easier to see. So, oh, we have a bunch of squirrels, right? So now we know, like, we at least got the name down. We're chilling on that front. So we could go ahead and start doing a little more. So instead of just name, let's maybe also do a description. And instead of hard coding Alvin is a lit squirrel, we're going to pass in description, like so. And if I save that, then I can go back to each of these and pass in a description as well. We don't need curly brackets for this for when calling it at this point. So Alvin is lit. Let me say a description here. Oh man, did someone leave? Damn. I thought I was doing good. Are you guys not following? All right. I take the signs of the yes. So Chip and Dale, right? Chip and Dale are my homies. Description here. Scrat likes acorns. And then just like random descriptions for everything else as well. So if I save this and I go back, right? Now we can see all of these descriptions got changed too. So that's fantastic. And the last part to this puzzle is we want to do, is someone raising your hand? Yeah, what's up? Yeah, I'm gonna show right now. Any other questions? It's difficult for me to see, but yes. Yeah. My thing auto formats to it because oh, wrong person. Do you want one? Maybe your neighbors want one. Okay, so oh yeah, I just have a formatter that makes it single quote, but double quotes are fine. So to do the image now, instead of importing it and referencing it within this component itself, I'm gonna delete this, and I deleted the import statement. And I'm going to now say image. I'll say image source or something, and we're going to reference image source up here. So what happens if I save it right now, right? Well, you can see none of these are like there's no images. It's because we're not passing anything, and the alt is showing actually, right? Because it doesn't have an image. Now in my app.jsx, this is a bit tedious, and it's also usually not how images are handled especially in like big apps, but I'm just going to really import all of them. I'm going to import Alvin, exactly like how I did in squirrel.jsx, but now I'm doing it in the app.jsx. And this was alvin.jpeg, I think. Yes. And I'm going to do that for all of these. So remember that this thing right here, this is like just a random variable. It can be whatever you want it to be, but usually you want to make it as descriptive as possible. Okay. I'm trying to like talk while I do this, but it's really just it's kind of boring. Scrat.png, import UCLA squirrel from same place as well. Okay, so now I can pass all of those images into here. So image source is equivalent to, and then now we need the curly brackets because we're passing like a variable. But we're gonna set this one to Alvin. We're gonna set this one to Chip and Dale. And then same thing for everything else. Scrat. And you can tell that you didn't have a typo or something. Same way as we did earlier with the props. But if you put your cursor on it, then they should both highlight. And again, you can also command click it. Maybe it might be control click for Windows. If you command click it, then it will jump to wherever it is, right? So if I save this now we have all of these different ones. And the images are not all the same aspect ratio. So I'm going to change that in a sec, but that's just CSS. But you can see that, we have a bunch of different components and they're all like, whatever we decided to pass in. And yeah, so I don't need to do this for a demo, but okay, could you hit the lights again? Thank you. Okay, so that was the basic demo for this. And now, right, if you like format it all nicely and stuff, you could make something that looks like this. I think after this is okay, yeah. So any questions on that? I know there's like I feel like I'm moving kind of fast in the demos, but if something was unclear, like a general process was unclear, let me know.
What is the Zoom?
Oh, so I think the first one there wasn't a Zoom, unfortunately. This one I'm gonna try to post it just like as soon as I can. So yeah, like hopefully by I would say tonight, but I'm like doing stuff tonight, so just whenever, whenever by tomorrow at latest, I'll say. Yes. Mm. Mhm. So the advantage of using it is now instead of like needing to make a bunch of different components that are really just the same, we can just make one component and then pass in a bunch of different props for it. And I know I'm still like typing out all of this, which is tedious, but there are also ways to do that a bit faster. I think they're hidden in the slides, because I knew I wouldn't have time for it, but there's things like JavaScript objects and arrays, and there's ways to map those, and especially if you're not, this is fully out of the scope of Hack School, but when you're working with like backend stuff, and if you want to like pull some data from like a database, then you would components make it a lot easier. That's why like whoever's coding Reddit is not like manually like writing out every single little thing. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it. But the reason, so it is a very simple final product. I'm not gonna pretend like I just made Google. But we the reason it's like that is because that's components and props are a very essential building block to being able to do more advanced stuff. And then as like the workshop series continues on, we're gonna, I think next week is events and state, or something like that. But we'll be teaching you like how to make actions work, right? And so on and so forth. I think I have a challenge right here. Like, you could make something similar to that. And yeah, as we continue learning more and more specific things, then you're going to be able to eventually make something more comprehensive. Like our hack website we made ourselves, and that's all using like React, or it's using Gatsby, but it's like React. Okay, yes. Here's also a challenge. There's also hints in the slides that I have hidden for presentation mode, but we invite you guys all to try your hand at it. It's 7 on the dot, and I have now done. So now you guys can work on your own projects. It doesn't need to be like a squirrel website. It can be something you find cool. And we'll be walking around to answer your questions because I know there are a lot of them. So thank you guys all for coming, and I hope it was helpful.